Hey guys, so as requested, this is my video on how I make my jollof rice, a quick and easy way that my mom showed me. So if you're interested, keep watching. So these are the ingredients that I'll be using. Now you can use any meat you like, but I'm going to use beef. And then I've also got tomato paste, crushed ginger, minced garlic, diced tomatoes, onions, chili powder. You can also use fresh chili. That's the cup I use to measure the rice. Also a measuring jug for the stock or water, 4 cups of rice, chicken powder or seasoning of your choice, and olive oil. So I begin by adding some chicken powder to a small pot of water. I'm going to add my meat to this and allow it to boil while I begin making the stew, and the stock from this will be used later on to cook the rice. Now to begin the stew, I add some olive oil into a large non-stick pot, add my onions and let it cook for a few minutes. Now using a non-stick pot will make the process of cooking the jollof rice very easy. Next I add about half a tablespoon of crushed ginger and add it to the onions. Then I add about the same amount of minced garlic to the onions and the ginger, stir it up and allow it to cook for a few more minutes until it's brown. Next I add my chili powder and stir that into the mixture of garlic, ginger and onion, and I allow it to cook for a minute or so. Now I only use a little bit of chili powder because my brothers don't like the food too spicy, but you can use as much chili as you like. Next I add about half a bottle of the tomato paste, stir it all up and allow it to fry for a few more minutes. After I've allowed it to fry for a few minutes, I will come back and stir it up before I add my diced tomatoes, and I use 1 can of this. Just tip it into the pot, stir once again and allow this to also fry for about 5 minutes. Now you want it to fry until the consistency of the stew is not too runny. While the stew is cooking, I check my meat, which is now boiling, and I can tip the water into a measuring cup and get 2 cups of stock, which I will use to cook the rice. But I always make sure to keep the excess stock in case I need to add a little bit more. So I fry the meat using a little bit of olive oil and also add my seasoning. And while that is frying, I go back and check my stew, stir it up and make sure that it's not burning. Once the meat is brown, I take it off the stove and put it aside, and I go back to the stew, which by now the consistency is a lot thicker, so I can add my 4 cups of rice into the stew. Then I simply stir the rice into the stew and make sure that it's mixed through properly. Now I want the rice to fry with the stew until it's quite dry, so I'll leave it for a few minutes before I come back and check on it. Now after a few minutes you can see that the rice is soaking up the stew and it's getting drier, but I need it to be a bit more clumpy, so I'm going to leave it for a few more minutes. Now you can see that it's a lot more clumpier, so I can add my meat to the mixture. Next I add the 2 cups of stock and stir it all together. At this point I also check if it's salty or seasoned enough for my taste buds. If it's not, I'll add a bit more seasoning. Once everything is mixed through properly, I can put the lid on the pot. And I also turn the heat down to about halfway just to make sure that it has time to cook properly and not burn. After about 10 minutes, I come back and check the rice. As you can see, the water and the stew mixture has soaked up in the rice, but it is a little grainy still, so I drizzle a little bit more of that stock water, mix it all up, and you want to make sure that each time you stir the rice, you stir really well. Make sure you get what's at the bottom to the top so everything cooks nicely, and this will make sure that you don't burn the rice. Then I wet one side of a plastic bag with water, place it over the rice before I put the lid back on. After about 10 minutes I come back and check the rice again. As you can see, this time it's cooking quite nicely. It's not as grainy as before, so I'm going to leave it for about another 10 minutes before I check it again, and it should almost be done. After about another 10 minutes, I check the rice again, and by this time it should almost be cooked. The rice should have a nice reddy orange color to it, and you can also taste it to make sure that the rice is soft and fluffy and not hard and crunchy. If it is still hard, that means you need to cook it for a little bit more, possibly add just a tiny bit more water and drizzle it over the rice and let it cook for a little while longer. But as you can see here, the rice is pretty much cooked, so I just tip it into a bowl. And the reason why I said to use a non-stick pot is because there is absolutely nothing that is burnt in the pot. It all comes out so easily and beautifully. But yeah, that's about it, guys. It's all done. It's ready to be eaten, devoured, destroyed. It tastes so good. This will serve about 4 people. So let me know if you cook this recipe and how you go. Thank you so much for watching this how to cook jollof rice video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!